Greetings to all of you wonderful viewers, wherever you are in this beautiful world. I'm looking forward to see you happy, healthy, and successful in everything that you do. And we're here to go over some of the aspects of life that could be creating some stumbling spaces or obstacles on our way. And in order to take care of those, we are required to look into ourselves and figure out what areas of life are troubling us. I'm Dr. Daniel Sadiq. I'm a clinical psychologist in Los Angeles, marriage and family therapist, author of Balancing the Wheel, and the co-founder at the Wheel of Wellbeing, which is an organization in service of health, happiness, and success, altogether creating balance in life. Well, today we want to talk about one of these obstacles, which is called shame. Shame is a toxic emotion. It's something that generally is installed in us from early ages through our experiences growing up. And regretfully, many times it comes from a place of lack of good supervision from our caregivers or lack of their understanding about their own emotions and feelings, and then projecting it into us, creating this space, this discomfort, this lack inside of us that is very difficult to overcome. And as I said, it's very toxic because the tendency is that it's hard to get it out of the system. Once you feel ashamed, the struggle against not being ashamed is just creating more shame because we're trying to control it. We're trying to not allow this negative sensation affecting us. So in order to stop it, we need to control the outside. We need to pay attention to what other people are projecting on us or how they see us or how they believe we are. So if I want to explain shame in a very short sentence, it is the lack of self-acceptance or having false beliefs about ourselves, which are creating this negative emotion and creating the difficulties. Well, in order to deal with this really negative emotion that is binding us in a certain predicament of negativity, depression, anxiety, fear, and most probably self-esteem, this is really the foundation of a lot of the difficulties we have in our relationships and in regards with others. So let's get a little bit deeper into the understanding of how these childhood situations are creating this shame. Let's say if as a child I couldn't hold myself and I was soiling my pants, or or I couldn't stop wetting my bed. There is a certain shame from that action or that incident that is coming, and then no matter if my parents are forgiving, they love me and they care for me, it becomes a secret for me that I don't want to share with anyone, even though I may know that my parents are not punishing me for it, or are they not looking down at me. I still have this feeling of shame because I don't want this secret to be dealt with in anywhere outside of myself. So I would try to control myself, but this control is creating more anxiety and more emotional suffering. Or if this is happening in school, and then in school I'm afraid of other kids making fun of me, or they are looking down at me. So my defense is that, again, to get away from the people around me, not let them into my personal affect and feeling, and I create these blocks. And as a result of that, I'm suspicious of others looking down at me, so I'll be angry with them. I'll be pushing them away, and I'll be getting on my own way of having good friends who really may care about me. Well, at the foundation of all of these, we're mammals. If you recall, we're talking about the brain functioning as, a nervous system, a reptilian brain behind our head, the midbrain, which is called mammalian brain, and then the cortex and prefrontal cortex, which is human. At the mammalian level, our brain is into the fight or flight, and this fight or flight is creating the defense mechanisms that we are using in adulthood. So if I felt ashamed in childhood and my defense mechanisms are kicking in, are mostly the result of my mammalian brain wanting to be included in the tribe. As mammals, we're tribal species. We live together. We need each other. We need our people around us. And without them, without having anybody around us and giving us that sense of belonging, then guess what happens? I'll be afraid of being kicked out of my tribe. And that is where shame starts. The fear of being seen as weak, as not good enough, as not strong enough. So the fears of being seen in a negative way creates that shame, and that shame is getting me more involved in more shame, and I'll be self-defeating in the long run. Okay. There is a short video. It's probably about 5 minutes. I found this really interesting. It's called the problem of shame. It's a video from the School of Life, and we give credit to them. This is a nice introduction into the concept of shame, and I think explains it pretty well. And then we go into more detail about how the symptoms of shame are seen inside of us, how we can deal with this shame, and how we can have a happier life as a result of dealing with any amount of shame that we experience. Let's together watch this video and then discuss it further.
Problems in the world is also one of the most invisible, because by its nature it asks to be hidden and saps our ability to spot its symptoms. But, to generalize grossly, few things so undermine human well-being as the sickness of shame. The guilty feel bad for something specific they have done. The shamed feel wretched simply for being. The affliction lacks borders. As shamed people, we don't connect the myriad ways in which our behavior and feelings are driven by a base conviction of our own abhorrence. We just take it as a given that we are disgusting. We lack the capacity to imagine that our shame has a history and therefore, perhaps, a future that could be curtailed. A first step in untangling ourselves is to get enough distance to spot and name the problem. We might make use of a little questionnaire. Out of 10, rate how true the following statements feel. I don't deserve to exist. I am defective. I am unworthy of being known and loved. I am a mistake. I deserve to be abandoned. I should not be. Anything over an 8 starts to indicate the problem. But if there were an option, most of us in the shamed camp would want to award ourselves 100 or more. This is the windswept barren land of shame, where many of us have been living all our lives, often without enough mental well-being to know that this is where we've been relegated. We should probe at where our shame collects. Take the outline of a human figure. What are we ashamed of? Our mind? Facial appearance? Physique? Genitals? Anus? We were not born ashamed. We should summon up the voices that gave us our legacy and which we have then internalized and blended with our own. You'll never amount to anything. You're the family idiot. You disgust me. Others may wonder why people around us behaved this way. The answer is clear enough to the shamed. Because we deserved it. We wouldn't be truly shamed people if all it took was a few simple questions to shake us from our conviction of our detestable identity. We were shamed because we were and are defective. Our caregivers weren't mean, they were, above anything else, perceptive, even brilliant. They could spot things that later, kinder people cannot. They had the true measure of us. Shamed children don't blame their guardians. We protect them for a weird but logical reason, so as not to feel entirely alone. We prefer to think well of our caregivers than to take on board how badly we've been let down, with all the convulsive rage and sadness that would entail. The consequences of shame are written across our lives. We don't allow other people to get too close to us. They would only be appalled if they knew the true us. We're not so good on physical intimacy. We get scared all the time. Bad things happen to bad people. We don't like parties. Why would anyone be pleased to see us? We have a lot of secrets, for most of what we are is unacceptable to other eyes. We go in for addictive behavior to escape our self-hatred, then feel even more ashamed of ourselves for the unholy things we've done. What is the way out of shame? The same popular answer is to tell ourselves that we are beautiful and good, but that won't easily convince us. There may be a better, more oblique strategy to bypass the defenses of the shamed. We should stress not that we are wonderful, but that every human being who has ever walked the planet is, in their own way, radically imperfect and broken when observed from close up. We may be a bit wrong, but so, blessedly, is everyone else who is and has ever been. We can be stupid, perverted, and uncouth, but that is wholly normal. Rather than implicitly upholding an ideal of goodness by telling ourselves that we do, after all, measure up to it, far better to throw away ideals and all notions of achievable purity and goodness. That's where the problem started. Better to accept that we are, as a group, entirely crazy and ill-tempered, wicked and odd, but then to stress just how much this is a reason for mercy and kindness, rather than censure and condemnation. Let's stop judging ourselves and others by unreal standards. That's how we made ourselves ill. Let's laugh and comfort each other for the absurdity and horror of existing in human form. The primary sin of those who made us feel ashamed was not so much that they spotted our flaws, it's that they forgot their own awfulness, and then had the gall to blame us for our own. We should give up on fascistic perfectionism in order to make a generous home for our cracked reality in our own and in the collective imagination. That'll be the start of our way out of the problem of shame.
What a beautiful presentation of this whole dynamic of shame. As you were witnessing, the shame is an innate feeling coming from not seeing ourselves perfect, which was our last program about perfectionism. Now, what happens that we don't see ourselves perfect? Because we have been pointed out that we have certain flaws, and these flaws are just created, they just have created more doubts about ourselves, and these doubts have created more of embarrassment, and then at the bottom of all of these, the shame that we're suffering from. Now, if this shame is going to be changing, we need to understand how. We need to understand what it takes to change this shame. And what came out of this video was that understand that nobody else is perfect. Everybody has a certain degree of flaws. Okay, we're all unique, and this uniqueness is not bad or good. It's just what it is. We're all unique, and these unique experiences that we have brought with us make us different from anybody else, because our experiences are coming from different resources, including our parents or caregivers, which they have influenced their own lacks or misunderstanding in us, and then we have reacted to those influences, and now we have been affected in the way that we present ourselves today. Right. So in order to understand what are the signs, the symptoms of somebody who's ashamed, we can look at a few different things. One, if you want to be disconnected, if you don't want to be included in certain places and kind of you're avoiding being with other people, that's a very good sign of shame, because In our healthier version, we are connecting individuals. We want to be around others. But shame is what stops us from having this tendency of being connected or being viewed by others in the open. So that is one of the most important symptoms that you can witness. Other symptoms are anger. When you find yourself getting angry pretty fast and things are pressuring you or stressing you in a very short time and you cannot really manage your temper, you got to understand that there is some shame involved. And the reaction of anger to shame is because you want to control it, you want to push it back, you don't want to be seen as bad. So in return, you are blaming other people, you are looking at them negatively because you feel that they are creating the feelings inside of you, right? Which is not true. Our feelings are our feelings, and their feelings are their feelings. However, they can trigger our feelings, and then if we're triggered, now we're going to be showing reaction to them, and that creates a lot more of the feud and discomfort that's going to come across. Another sign of it is self-blame. When we are continuously looking down at ourselves and we finding faults at ourselves, we are in that predicament. Some of the diagnostics in psychology, they come from this shame. For example, body dysmorphic disorder is practically is a part of that dynamism of feeling ashamed, or lack of self-esteem or self-confidence comes from that essence of being ashamed. Uh, Addiction, that's another sign of shame, because many times people who are addicts, they have gone through experiences that they have felt very deep shame. Let's say if somebody has been sexually abused, uh, physically abused, emotionally abused, this abuse creates some dynamic of responsibility or guilt feeling, finding themselves at the cause that they have created this upon themselves. They cannot understand that they were children and they really didn't have any way to control this, and this is the outside influences that has created this shame inside of them. But they blame themselves for it, for that event that has happened. They see themselves as somebody who has prompted this to happen. So as a result, they will be trying to deflect from this pain, and they go into drinking, using drugs, or any kind of other addiction, smoking cigarettes even as a part of that, just deflecting and getting separated from that trauma. So if we want to cure or get rid of this shame, what are we going to be doing, right? The first thing that you need to realize is to realize that, as I said earlier, your feelings are your feelings and other people's are theirs. So if we take our feelings based upon how other people are reacting towards us, we're creating more problems for ourselves. We need to understand that everybody's feelings are their own feelings. So what other people feel towards us really doesn't matter, because that's their feeling and it's inside of them. If they're directing it towards me, doesn't mean that it's my feeling, and it doesn't mean that I need to do anything about it. They can just feel whatever they feel, and we can just leave them with those feelings. The other part of the solution is figuring out our own feelings, having names for our feelings, creating an understanding of how I feel. Remember, feelings are where we are. You know, just like a satellite is detecting where a vehicle is before before it can give the direction where to go to. We need to have a location, and this location needs to be announced to the satellite, and then the satellite can give us a direction. If I don't know my own feelings, how can I expect my brain to give me any direction to, a good place that I want to end up at? So realizing your own feelings is really important, and I suggest you work on it, because most of the time these feelings are attached to each other, convoluted, creating these emotional bursts or reactions that, like earthquake, can erupt and they can ruin ourselves and other people. So in order to avoid such a burst of energy or negative energy, we need to understand feelings individually. The emotions are clusters of feelings. So if my emotion is anger, the feelings I feel neglected, I feel let down, I feel dispowered, I feel insulted, I feel disrespected. So many other feelings could be coming together to create this anger. So, in order to get rid of the shame, I need to understand what is the underlying feeling or feelings that create this defense mechanism that my inner child now is reacting. And the concept of inner child is really important in your healing. If you can understand that there is a part of you that we can call it your inner child, has taken on a lot of information, has figured out how to protect you against all of these negative feelings, then this child has had a mission to support you to grow. Okay, now as a grown up, as a man or a woman, now this child still trying to protect you, this child still trying to deflect any negativity from around you to survive, right? But now, in the lack of an adult sense of ourselves, that child is going to be the only one who's directing us. Well, our adult part may be functioning in our professions, in our jobs, in our certain aspects of our life, and our prefrontal cortex would be active, yet the most of our reactions or our fears or anxieties or depressed feelings are coming from this limbic system, midbrain, mammalian brain, that is, as a child or as an animal, is reacting to save us. So this inner child is reacting in protection, and then as long as this inner child doesn't feel there is an adult, there is a sense of somebody supporting it in a good way, we're going to be in trouble. So in order to have this dialogue, therapy is a very good support. If you go to wheelofwellbeing.com, this website has a lot of different information, including a test. That's something that we talk about every time. It's called the wheel test or the wheel quiz. Through taking this test, you can figure out in what areas you need more support, especially if your area of needed support is mostly in your emotional well-being or in your relational well-being. You can understand that the underlying issue could be shame, could be feeling guilty, could be feeling low self-confidence, all kind of interrelated. So in order to find a better situation for yourself, feel more balanced in life, feel more creative and positive about yourself, appreciating yourself in a different way, you need to understand where these flaws have been forming in your mind and disvalidating them, because you are good, you're born good. As children, as you saw in this video, we don't have any of these negative feelings. We're pure energy. We're coming to this world as a pure joy, a bundle of joy. But then this bundle of joy is affected with so many different things around us, and then eventually this protection mechanism of the inner child is getting involved in protecting us. But then in adulthood, we're responsible to figure out what's going on. Once you take the wheel test, then you figure out where you are on this spectrum. You figure out on the map of your well-being where you are. And then if the chances are that your feelings are negatively directed towards you, emotionally, relationally, mentally, and sometimes physically, you're not taking care of yourself because your mind doesn't pick up the necessity of self-care. So in all of these regards, we are here to support you. If you become a member of the Wheel Select, which is an option that you have at the end of taking this test, we're here to support you. Me and my wife, Coach Bonnie, together we have created Wheel of Wellbeing for bringing you health, happiness, and success through figuring out how you can balance yourself better. My book, Balancing the Wheel, is also available. It has all of the details of ways that you can make your life better. I'm always at your service. You're more than welcome to contact me directly at my email. drdsadigh at gmail.com, or you can go to my website, drsadiq.com. There's so many different ways that you can be in touch. I'm here pretty much 3 times a week, looking forward to speaking with you in regard to all of these important parts of you that you want to pay attention to every day. If we don't go into our feelings and don't create self-love, it's very difficult to love others and be in a loving world. I wish you the best. I hope that you have a wonderful day wherever you are and you enjoy life after taking care of yourself. You come first. Love you. Love yourself. Have a beautiful day until Friday. A healthy mind requires balance, and balancing the wheel is your guide to finding more happiness, healthier lifestyle, and a successful practice in whatever you do. I'm Dr. Daniel Sadiq, author of Balancing the Wheel, and you can find it on Amazon under balancingthewheel.com/book or in the Audibles in audiobooks.com.
Do you have virus